Hello, everyone. If you follow along on my podcast, A Beautiful Life, we discuss the importance of optimally functioning thyroid and adrenals and how the hormones produced by these two endocrine glands affect the entire body. Today, I want to break down what adrenal insufficiency is because I am meeting with more clients who are experiencing this than I would prefer to see. So many people have burnt out adrenals, and it's crazy. The science doesn't really give us proof to the existence of adrenal fatigue. In fact, if you were to search adrenal fatigue, most people will say it doesn't exist. But there are very many people who believe that it is a very real thing. So one of the reasons why doctors just do not accept this term, adrenal fatigue, is because there could be underlying issues present creating similar symptoms of adrenal extreme fatigue, which can feel like adrenal fatigue. The adrenals require special care, which is why I also hesitate to use the term with many of my clients, because usually when they come to me saying I have adrenal fatigue, typically I would go in and say, okay, well, let's break this down. What is your health history? And typically they always have an underlying concern that is causing this extreme fatigue. However, I always know what they're talking about, so I'm able to address it quickly, because if they mention they have adrenal fatigue, I automatically know, okay, well, we know what to look for. Let's dig into this. So the reason why the adrenals might be malfunctioning could be a variety of issues. It could be a variety of things. This is why proper testing and assessment is required and should be done first and foremost before anything else, because we need to test the hormone levels. One of the best terms to use then in this case would be adrenal insufficiency. It just means that the adrenals are not functioning optimally. They are under functioning rather than spitting out the hormones that they need to. And this can be diagnosed through proper testing of cortisol levels and other hormone levels, but particularly cortisol. So what is adrenal insufficiency? So it can be as simple as malfunctioning adrenals due to high stress situations over long periods of time, which is causing a release of the fight or flight hormones, cortisol in particular, and this can create a cortisol drip. It can lead to Cushing's disease. That's something where you have high cortisol levels over long periods of time, but usually it's just the burnt out effect that you feel from the regular release of these hormones. However, there is a condition called Addison's disease that is typically associated with low functioning adrenals. This is more rare, so not to frighten anybody. If you feel like you have adrenal insufficiency, do not worry. There are levels. Addison's disease is the highest top level, and this is also reversible, but it can be more complicated. So some symptoms include, if you're curious, some symptoms can include chronic low-lasting fatigue, muscle weakness, loss of appetite, weight loss, abdominal pain, and then more rarely, if you are in more advanced stages, you have nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, low blood pressure that drops further when you stand up. This can cause dizziness or fainting. Irritability and depression, joint pain, craving of salty foods, hypoglycemia, irregular or no menstrual periods, and loss of interest in sex. So completely no libido. So those with Addison's disease, they may also have darkening of the skin in various areas. That could be on scars, elbows, knuckles, knees, toes, lips, and even the lining of the cheek. So that can often diagnose what they have. In fact, it's funny, I was watching an episode of Royal Pains, if you've ever watched that show. It's one of my favorites. One person had Addison's disease in this show, and he was very tan. So that's one of the indicators. But not the only indicator, because skin darkening can also be other conditions. This is again why we go into further testing. So thankfully, adrenal insufficiency, like I said, is a gradual process. It's not something that you're automatically thrown into. Usually it can be reversed in the more severe signs, but you want to reverse it at the first sign. That's going to be the best situation. But it can also be confused with other illnesses, which is why specific testing is required, because extreme fatigue is a symptom in a ton of different conditions, including thyroid conditions. So if you suspect high or low cortisol levels, just test them in case. It's just not going to hurt anything if you go in for a hormone panel. Just make sure you add in cortisol. It's just going to give you a better picture of what's going on. Adrenal insufficiency could come from being in highly stressed, burnt out situations for long periods of time. This is where a lot of my clients are sitting. Usually they will be entering a burnt out stage, and that burnout will unfortunately get worse and worse and worse. It happens because you're overbooking yourself, or you're putting yourself into situations that you shouldn't be, that are highly stressing you, whether that's people, situations, places, doesn't matter what it is, but being burnt out for long periods of time is going to lead to burning out of the adrenals. So not only can it come from that, but you can also have damage to the adrenals, which can cause hormone disruption. You can have an underlying autoimmune condition that could be affecting the adrenals, pituitary malfunction. The adrenals and the pituitary gland are highly attached. So if you have brain's working faster than my mouth. If you have a dysfunction or a malfunction in one, odds are you're going to have a dysfunction or malfunction in the other. So you want to make sure that you're testing the pituitary gland as well. Also, for athletes, traumatic brain injury can be one of the causes for adrenal insufficiency as well. And then if you have any removal of the pituitary gland, or if you're using specific drugs, that can also lead to adrenal insufficiency as well. So there's a lot of things that can point to it. This is why we look at health history in addition to testing. It's really important to have both. It gives us a bigger picture of what's going on. So this is where assessments come in. This is why we have assessments. It makes it so much easier for us to address the underlying cause and not have to do any extreme guesswork when you guys come to me. So it's important to pay really close attention to how your body responds to regular stressors, exercise, just regular daily life, and how it feels on a regular basis, how it feels in response to all of these things. Because when you start paying attention to your body and how it responds to different stimuli and its natural responses, you are then better able to recognize when something is off, when your hormones are disrupted, when your adrenals are not functioning as well. You'll be able to pick up on symptoms a lot faster, and it's just really cool being in tune with your body because you can feel these changes. Your gut health and supporting your adrenals and thyroid naturally through organ meat supplementation and other vitamins and minerals, ensuring that you're getting enough sleep, avoiding burnout situations and high stress situations, being constantly put in them, and taking time to relax and breathe will ultimately help you avoid adrenal insufficiency in the future. Being on top of it is always important. Prevention is key. I always teach this. Prevention. We're here about prevention. We're not here to reverse serious chronic conditions, although that is something that I do work with, but we are here to prevent these conditions from becoming worse. So thank you all for watching. If you didn't catch this week's podcast episode, I highly recommend you give it a listen to understand the adrenals and the thyroid a little bit more. They are very important endocrine glands in our bodies. Our thyroid is also extremely important, especially because we're seeing more and more women coming up with hypothyroidism. So understanding where that's coming from and how we can support our thyroids is also extremely important. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for regular updates. There's a new video every Saturday. I will be having some roofing done pretty soon here, so I've pre-recorded some episodes for you guys, but if for some reason I miss a Saturday, it is because you will not be able to hear me due to roof work, so just keep that in mind. But I'm very excited to dig deeper into a lot of different organ functions with you guys. We're going to be breaking down a lot the next couple weeks. So there's going to be really exciting topics. And as always, if you have any questions about anything that we are discussing here on YouTube or on the podcast episodes, feel free to reach out, and always do your research, because that is where you're going to find the most amount of information, and you're going to be able to find good research articles and stuff if that's your thing. Otherwise, I promise you, I do not share information here or anywhere. I don't teach anything unless I am firmly understanding every subject and it is firmly based in scientific evidence and research. So anyway, I will see you in the next video, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.